This is Mac OS Ken.
Counterpoint sees growth for smartphones, signs of RCS support for iPhone, and a crazy Apple leaker story. It is Friday, the 29th of March, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Global smartphone shipments will see a modest rebound this year, and iPhone will play a part. That is the stated thinking of Counterpoint Research. According to the firm's global smartphone shipment forecast, shipments are expected to hit 1.2 billion units in 2024, an increase of 3% year-on-year. Driving that rise, phones at the low end and phones at the high end. Starting at the low end, the firm says the budget economy segment, that's phones in the $150 to $249 range, will rebound by 11% this year. That comes after a particularly nasty 2023 for those phones. Look for that segment to be particularly strong in India, the Middle East, Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin American markets. As inflationary pressures have eased considerably across Africa and local currencies have stabilized in many countries, Counterpoint says the consumer purchasing power has recovered, benefiting the $150 to $249 segment. I know, get to the part about Apple. Okay, fine. According to the release, the premium segment, that's phones in the $600 to $799 range, should see steady growth this year, rising 17% versus 2023. Driving that will be the introduction of generative AI smartphones and the popularity of foldables, which is a story I still just can't believe. And I worry that I'm going to be wrong about this, but I can't see the foldable thing. I know. Get to the part about Apple. Okay. According to the release, Apple and Huawei are likely to lead the premium segment's growth. The steady demand for iPhones, particularly in emerging markets such as India and the Middle East and Africa, will drive Apple's growth. Huawei is expected to retain its strong presence in China's smartphone market in 2024. With the release of its 5G Kirin chipset, the brand will continue to see a sturdy demand in China. Hints at the arrival of RCS support for iPhone. TechCrunch says Google may have let the cat out of the bag, though it has since tried to shove it back in. According to the report, the search giant briefly showed a section on the new Google Messages page claiming that Apple is set to roll out Rich Communication Services, or RCS support, for iPhones this fall. That'll likely sync up with the release of iOS 18, giving the apparent Google slip-up some credence. The report says the page, spotted first by 9to5 Google, had details about the benefits of RCS. One of the segments within that had a label, "Coming Soon on iOS," with a title called "Better Messaging for All." Don't bother looking. It's not there now. You can look in the source code for the page, though. TechCrunch says hints and remnants do survive there. While RCS support on iPhone will not end the green bubble, blue bubble brouhaha that's gone on from minor annoyance to part of the DOJ case against Apple, all the way to a feature on All Things Considered. While this will not end that, it will bring improvement. The piece points out that once the support arrives, Android users will be able to send high-res media to iPhone users. Oh, the life of an alleged corporate spy. 9to5Mac has a crazy story of an apparently brazen leaker from inside Apple's ranks. I tend not to name names in stories like these because it just feels icky. I will say, if Apple has on this guy what it says it has, wow. According to the report, the company is suing a former iOS software engineer, accusing him of leaking information about more than a half dozen different Apple policies and products. To whom did he leak the information? To the information, according to the report, as well as to the Wall Street Journal. As noted, according to data from his Apple-issued work iPhone, the individual had over 1,400 encrypted communications with a single Wall Street Journal journalist over a single 4-month period, Apple's lawsuit says. He also sent another journalist at the information over 10,000 text messages from his Apple-issued work iPhone and traveled across the continent to meet with her. Info said to have been leaked by the individual included, but was not limited to, the final feature list for the Journal app, confidential details about Apple's strategies for regulatory compliance, info on Apple's development of products within the spatial computing space, a rumor about a design feature of an unreleased Apple device, confidential details regarding Apple's internal product development policies, and that list goes on. Now here is where it gets funny. According to Apple, they found out about the leaking last fall and called the guy in for a meeting. He said he did not have his work-issued iPhone with him. Then he asked to go to the bathroom, where he whipped it out, his work-issued iPhone that is, and permanently deleted significant amounts of evidence from his device. You know, some streaming service someplace should make a movie about this whole thing. Even though his employment has been terminated, 9to5Mac says Apple says he poses an ongoing threat based on his knowledge of Apple's confidential and proprietary information. They are seeking a judgment against the guy, injunctive relief, damages, interest on those damages, punitive damages, an order barring him from spilling any more beans without Apple's written consent, a return of the bonuses Apple paid him, reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred, and such other relief as the court deems just and appropriate. Man, just ouch. The latest Apple Immersive video for the Vision Pro headset seems to have underwhelmed folks equipped to watch it. Apple describes its immersive video as a new entertainment format pioneered by Apple that transports viewers to the center of a story with 180-degree 3D 8K recordings captured with spatial audio. Mac Rumors ran a piece yesterday that had the company hitting with its first new video in the format since Apple Vision Pro launched on the 2nd of February. What did they come with? 5 minutes of highlights from the 2023 Major League Soccer playoffs, which the piece points out were over 110 days ago. To be fair, it was various headlines about the video that made the reaction sound underwhelming. That said, it does seem like a long wait for a short video that's as much an ad for an Apple subscription as it is something fun to do with your $3,500 headset. But if you watched it, let me know what you thought. info@macosken.com. For those of us still watching flat TV like a bunch of cave dwellers, there's new stuff hitting today on Apple TV Plus. Aimed at the young and the young at heart, it is finally time to go back to the rock. Fraggle Rock, Back to the Rock is back for Season 2. Gobo, Red, Boober, Moki, Wembley, and Uncle Traveling Matt are back, bringing along such guest stars as Daveed Diggs, Ariana DeBose, Brett Goldstein, Catherine O'Hara, and others. 13 episodes for the second season. They are all up now on Apple TV+. And finally today, a much-anticipated documentary hits the Cupertino streamer in 2 parts. Steve Martin, a documentary in 2 pieces, has made its wild and crazy way to Apple's streaming service. Why 2 pieces? According to Apple, Then chronicles Martin's early struggles and meteoric rise to revolutionize stand-up before walking away at 35. Now focuses on the present day, with Martin in the golden years of his career, retracing the transformation that led to happiness in his art and personal life. The doc brings with it never-before-seen footage and a slew of stars, including Martin Short, Tina Fey, Jerry Seinfeld, Eric Idle, Diane Keaton, Selena Gomez, and Steve Martin. Both pieces are available now on Apple TV+. Today on the checklist, brought to you by SecureMac, the deadline for filing taxes is just over 2 weeks away. We'll tell you about some tax scam warnings from the IRS. Plus, have you heard about the targeted multi-factor authentication bombs being lobbed at some Apple device users? We've got more on checklist number 369. Find that today at securemac.com/checklist or wherever you get podcasts. This is not an April Fool's joke. I am taking a few days off next week. We'll meet back here next Wednesday or Thursday and see what we missed. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.